Mr. President.
The senator from Oklahoma.
Mr. President, I ask unanimous consent the quorum call in progress be vitiated.
Without objection.
Mr. President, I ask that I be heard, and I know that we are all concerned right now with the progress that's going to be made on the pipeline, and I'd like to make a few comments about it. I've got three charts. Hold the one up that was from Oklahoma. I want to remind everyone of. Yeah, you go ahead and bring that up if you want to. I want to remind everyone that we had a visitor in the state of Oklahoma. The only time that I understand that he has been in Oklahoma, it was President Obama came by, and this was back, he came to Cushing, Oklahoma. Now, let me explain where Cushing, Oklahoma is. It's in the central part of the state, and it is the hub of all the pipelines, all the way from Canada down to Mexico. And of course, the pipeline in question here that we've been talking about over and over now for months and months and months is one that we understand just how great this would be. And so the president, knowing that this is very popular, and this was back actually before the election, wasn't it? Yeah, back before the election, made a trip to Oklahoma and talked about how good, and I'm going to actually read you the quote. Well, here it is right here. I'm directing my administration. Keep in mind where this was. This was in Cushing, Oklahoma, before all the tubes, and right in the middle of the hub of the pipelines going all the way through. And he said, I'm directing my administration to make this project a priority, to go ahead and get it done. Well, that sounded real good. The problem is everyone in Oklahoma knew that he wasn't telling the truth. And I don't like to stand here and use the L word because nothing really gets done by it, but he's done everything since that time to destroy the pipeline. Now, he was making the statement then that I'm not going to stand in the way of the further production of this pipeline to go down south through Texas. Well, there's good reason for that because he couldn't do anything about it. That doesn't cross any international borders. And where he has blocked this is where he can do it because it crosses the international border between Canada and the United States. And I want to mention, because there's a person who's been very active in the political realm, put up Tom Steyer's thing. His name is Tom Steyer's. He's been very much involved, and quite frankly, I don't object to people that are right forward and honest about what their intentions are. This is the man, if you'll remember, Tom Steyer, who is a billionaire, and he had several meetings, and he said that he's going to put up $50 million of his own money and raise an additional $50 million, that's $100 million, to put in races in the coming election, which was this last November. And it's my understanding that in the final analysis, he wasn't able to raise the extra money, but of his own money. This is his words, not mine. He put in $70 million. According to him, it is, quote, this is quoting him, he said, "It is true that we expect to be heavily involved in the midterm elections. We are looking at a bunch of races. My guess is that we'll end up being involved in 8 or even more races," talking about some $70 million that was going to be involved in. Well, I would say that wasn't a real good investment because he didn't win any of those 8 races and actually netted out a loss of 9 races. So it's again, he has a stated goal to try to do 2 things with his influence and his money. Again, I don't criticize him for this. He believes in his cause. And his 2 causes are, number 1, to try to stop any further development on federal land. In other words, to try to do what he can with some of the suggested pollution and all of this thing that supposed to go with it. And the other thing is to stop the pipeline. And again, he was the one who made the statement, and also has been very influential in this administration. By count, it's been reported, and this is about 2 weeks ago, that he has visited the Obama White House some 14 times, which led a member of the watchdog group Public Citizen to say, quote, "Tom Steyer has not just got the ear of the president, but he clearly has the president's attention." Now, these White House meetings were often with President Obama's counselor and chief environmental advisor, John Podesta. We all know John Podesta. We've known his background for a long time. I personally have known him also. And he has lobbied for for Steyer to be the United States Secretary of Energy, saying, quote, "I think he would be a fabulous choice for Energy Secretary, and I've let my friends in the administration know that." So the reports also show that Mr. Steyer and Podesta have met with George Soros, one of the billionaires, a liberal billionaire, and to draw this in. So this effort is going on, and I just think it's necessary to remind the American people, because it's been probably, I bet, 6 months since anyone's even talked about some of the things that we can look forward to in terms of obstacles that are in the way of getting this thing done that needs to be done. The president tries to downplay the job numbers. We talk about the 42,000 jobs. He went on to say just a couple of days ago, well, wait a minute, those are just temporary jobs. Well, temporary jobs, all jobs are temporary. But these jobs would be there for a number of years and would lead to others. And the president tries to downplay the numbers by using the rhetoric that has earned his statements multiple Pinocchios. You know, the Washington Post has this program where they check the facts, and he's lost and several times has been the recipient of these Pinocchio awards. So unfortunately, his attitude towards the construction and manufacturing jobs is one that would stop jobs that would be for hardworking Americans. And I would ask my colleagues on both sides of the aisle, you know, this is really significant. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about important jobs. And we're talking about high-paying jobs. And I'm a little biased because, as I say, we in Oklahoma, in Cushing, Oklahoma, are the hub of these pipelines going through America. So what is going to positively affect our economy nationwide is going to be probably even more in my state of Oklahoma. So the other thing that the president has done, he's done a lot of talking about the transportation infrastructure. And of course, this pipeline is part of that. You think of the transportation infrastructure as roads, highways, bridges. And I applaud every time I hear him saying that we need to do something about our transportation infrastructure. Unfortunately, it's always words. He never follows through. He had a program on 2 different occasions was going to be very ambitious, and was going to start constructing new highways, and he was very specific about where they're going to go. But then that was the end of it. You know, he got the word out there, and everybody heard, he must be for highways, and then he forgot all about it. So, I'm pretty biased here because I chair the committee called Environment and Public Works, which deals with all the infrastructure. And I would say this: we're embarking on a very ambitious transportation reauthorization bill, and it's one that's going to include lots of modes of transportation. And of course, it would all be a part of this pipeline and the benefits that are coming through. So. I would say that he does a lot of talking about that, but we're going to really have to get down and do it. I often wondered, what would have happened back 6 years ago? Just to refresh your memories, the first thing this president did was his $825 billion stimulus bill. Well, how better could you stimulate the economy than have an ambitious transportation bill? And I remember my colleague on the other side of the aisle, Barbara Boxer. She and I introduced amendments to try to, on this amount, I opposed, of course, vigorously the $825 billion. That was a checkbook given to the president in his opening months of his office. But the fact that it was going to pass, and we knew they had the votes to pass it right down party lines, which it did, then he was in a position to say, we are now going to be doing these things. So we thought, Barbara Boxer and I thought, well, let's get a percentage, like I think our amendment was 8% of that would be reserved for, and that's a modest amount, for highways. And if you really wanted to stimulate the economy, there's no better way than to do it that way. So anyway, that is kind of the background of this, what has been happening, and I really believe now that we have a majority and we are going to get busy and try to get this done, that we'll be successful in doing it. And I would say that we have a lot of critical infrastructure projects this is supported, I have to say, by the Chamber of Commerce, by labor unions. Almost everyone out there is in support of this. yesterday, I think it was, in one of the committee hearings, and I want to make sure that this was properly answered in the committee hearing, because it was in a committee I'm not on, the Energy Committee, that one of the my good friends on the Democrat side of the aisle made the statement that we're very proud of the president because our production is dramatically increased during the 6 years that he has been president of the United States. And I say, yeah, that's true. But it's been in spite of the president. Let me give you a couple of statistics that people are not aware of. That is, in the shale revolution that's taken place in this country, we have increased during that period of time our production. We're really talking about shale production by 61%. Can you believe 61% in 5 years? That's what it's been. But all 61% of that has been in private and state land. On federal land, over which President Obama has jurisdiction and can stop it, while the rest has increased by 61%, it has decreased by 6%. And I think that we need to make sure and remind people, because we don't want people, the public, walking around thinking that somehow we have a president that is not involved in a war on fossil fuels. He is definitely involved in that war on fossil fuels. And in spite of that, the shale revolution. By the way, let me mention one other thing about the shale revolution. Because of the Marcellus, what's happening back east, people have always historically thought about the West, about the state of Oklahoma, and being the kind of where all the oil is and the production is. And that really was true for a long period of time. But with the Marcellus coming in, then Pennsylvania, New York, the Northeast has been a heavy production area. In fact, I've heard figures that in Pennsylvania, the second largest employer right now are people who are involved in production, in this shale production that's taking place there. I don't know that it's the second largest, but that has not yet been refuted. So very important things are happening there, but the key to making all of this happen is the pipeline. And we know eventually we're going to be there. But I've heard there's already been a veto threat that we're going to pass a bill. I know we're going to pass a bill. It's going to pass the House and the Senate. The president probably will veto it. He said he would. I'm inclined to think that an awful lot of my friends on the Democrat side are going to stop and think, wait a minute, this is something that's good for everyone. And there are going to be a bunch of people overriding a veto. I think that I really believe something like that's going to happen. This is so significant. I'd like to say one other thing, and that is, people try to say, the reason we don't want this is because it's dirty. This is up in Alberta, Canada. This is something that's going to affect the environment and all of that. First of all, it doesn't. People understand that is not a true statement. But if it were true, it is something that is ridiculous, because China is already making their deal. This has been public, that China wants to have transportation across Canada that would go into the West Coast and be able to be sent over to China. Now, if that should happen, in terms of the pollution, since they don't have any safeguards over there, that would result in increasing, not decreasing, any pollution that would be associated with this production. So, Mr. President, I know a lot of people want to talk about this, and I put up the other chart there. Is this the one? Yeah, to give you an idea of what all is there in moving this production around. This chart is a very significant chart because it shows what is out there today and what can be produced. And a minute ago, I talked about the Northeast. That's the Marcellus that we're talking about. A huge benefit out there. And yet a lot of the people who represent that part of America are not even aware that this is not just a Western United States thing. Just look at the map and you can see. So we have an opportunity here, and I feel very strongly that our friends up there, and with the pipeline coming down, everyone's going to benefit. You've seen the charts, and certainly the occupier of the chair right now has many times pulled the charts down, showing the great benefits that are going to be there for the entire country, along with our rapid path to be totally independent of any other country in our ability to produce our own energy. So this is a win-win situation. We're eventually going to get it, but the sooner the better. And I applaud the chair and others who are involved in the legislation that we're going to be considering as we speak now. With that, I yield the floor. Suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll.